All right. Well, that's a lot. We talk about the transition and the growing. I want to take it back a little bit more personal on you, if that's all right with you.
Sure.
Looking you up, doing some research, doing my due diligence. Santa Cruz native, started with the Chicago White Sox, single A affiliate, but now you're back home. What was the track like? Just grinding and grinding and grinding to get back to here, and then all of a sudden you're calling hockey for, I guess you could say, your hometown team.
Yeah, it really has been a dream come true. I couldn't have scripted it any better. My long-term goal as any broadcaster is to get to the highest level. So, my
Right.
goal and dream is to get to the NHL, but I don't feel like I could have been in a better spot. That's a given, being the fact that I'm here and, grew up in the organization to a degree, having played for the Junior Sharks and just an absolute hockey fanatic as a kid, and still am. When I was going through the broadcasting journey, if you will, I always thought, I know I have to move away. I know this is how it works. I have no problem with doing that. And I started about as far east as you could go. I was on the North Carolina coast, essentially.
Hmm.
But I thought, okay, we'll start here, but let's intro way back west. And for me, I got very fortunate that I guess the road and path wasn't as long as I thought it would have had to be. I did a year in single A baseball, and then I knew hockey was a sport I wanted to do. I graduated like yourself in the fall semester, and because of that, I couldn't just start with a hockey team. The season had already begun, so I thought I've got to get some experience anyway. So let's try
Right.
to get into baseball. That season hasn't started. I went to what's called the baseball winter meetings.
Hmm.
It occurs every year in various cities. This year, the year I went was in San Diego. So
Lovely.
I went down there, and it, it's basically a job fair to a degree. And there was 3 or 4 broadcasting jobs open, and I think there was probably 200 or 300 wannabe broadcasters, including myself. I didn't get a single interview back, so that was one of those kind of discouraging moments. That being said, I was very steadfast on what I wanted to do, and wasn't going to be wavered by, I guess, that setback. So what I did was I essentially emailed every single team at every level of minor league baseball, starting from like rookie league all the way up to AAA, just trying to get my foot in the door.
Right.
And after a couple of months of just basically knocking on doors, I got emails back within about a 3 or 4 day span, and it was 2 or 3 job offers. Now, none of them were really glorious. One was in short season college, basically hard, like it was wood bat league essentially,
Yeah.
up in Oregon.
Hmm.
And then another one was a minor league affiliate down in Southern California. It was the Dodgers high A affiliate, at the time, the Rancho Cucamonga Quakes.
Great names,
Um,
great cities in the minor leagues of baseball.
yeah, we go there quite a bit with Ontario. And the other one was, they were called at the time the Kannapolis Intimidators, which was formerly owned by Dale Earnhardt. He was
Hmm.
from Kannapolis. He owned the team. The colors were red, black, and gray. They had one of his old vehicles in front. The Intimidator was his nickname, of course. So that's what the team is named after. They have since changed their name. They got a new stadium since I left. They're called the Cannonballers, I believe. But
Oh.
um, yeah, it's just fun kind of minor league names. But essentially, I got Rancho Cucamonga, excuse me, had reached out, and I drove down there from Santa Cruz. I said, yeah, I can meet you in person. And so I just drove down there. I was obviously trying to just make an impression. Went down there. The guy was great. They couldn't pay me though. There was no, and this was a time when there was non-paid interns. This was 8 or 9 years ago. So I went down there, and I was planning on taking the position. Um, and then I got another call from Kannapolis, and they were going to pay me. And my dad gave me the advice, if you want to be a professional, you should be paid. So
Yep.
that wasn't the end all be all, but I also thought this is an adventure, right? I'm from California, went to school in Arizona, but I've never lived on the East Coast. So, let's go for it. So we drove cross country. I spent almost the entire year there as the number 2 broadcaster, doing all the home games
Hmm.
on the weekends, because our main play-by-play guy, they needed a PA announcer and kind of an in-arena host for the game. So he would do that on the weekends, and I would take over the broadcast. So it was a great experience. I got to call all 9 innings, all the weekend home games. I think it turned out to be like 30 or 40 games. And then as the season continued along, I was looking for hockey opportunities because that
Right.
was my goal. And I ended up getting the job. I found they were called the Odessa Jackalopes, a North American Hockey League team, which is
Hmm.
like junior hockey second level from the USHL. And I was like, yeah, that sounds great. And ended up getting the job, and ended up leaving the baseball team about 3 or so weeks early. And they were totally understanding, recognizing I had gotten a job. So um, I didn't want to leave them hanging or anything. So, but they were more than happy to let me go. So, long story short, end up working for the Odessa Jackalopes for a year, and quite the adventure there. We had our hairy bus trips, as you often do in hockey, and I had some roommates that were characters. I think I moved when I was there. They paid for my housing. Didn't pay me much, but they paid for my housing, and I think I moved 3 or 4 times in the one season. So
Dang.
I had some roommates that were a little interesting, to say the least, and they moved me around. At one point, I was living with our president, and then he got me in another place. It was just quite the year. So from there, the Sharks had an opening with the Barracuda, and I thought it was a long shot, given the fact I'd only been in junior hockey for a season, but I figured why not? So I threw my hat into the ring, and I ended up getting a call, and they brought me out to San Jose, and I was one of three were the finalists for interviews. So I basically had interviews all day. It was quite the experience. Interviewed with Dan and Randy as well, and they were great. But interviewed with our president and HR and PR. They just put me basically through the ringer, and it was
Yeah.
a great experience. But I kind of left it thinking, man, if I don't get this job, for one, I'm not going to get a return home, and for two, I've got to go back to Odessa. Now, I loved Odessa. I thought the people were great. The experience was great, but it's tough when you kind of get a taste of the pro level and the American League level, and then all of a sudden you got to go back to the junior level, because you just don't know when another opportunity is going to open up.
Right.
But luckily, it worked out, and I guess, as they say, the rest is history. And I've been here now for 7 years, so it's something I don't take for granted. You know how it is when you're going through your career and you're trying to get your feet wet and trying to get your foot in the door.
Yeah.
You cherish the opportunities. You cherish people who give you a chance and give you an opportunity. And again, to be home, it just doesn't happen that way very often. So I just try to take it in stride. And I love my job. I love where I'm at, and very grateful and appreciative
Yeah.
for the Sharks for giving me a chance. So
Yeah.
they're still employing me, and I guess that's all you can ask at this point. So
Yeah, no, I for sure. I'm a few years behind you, but I definitely agree. Like I was so close to taking a job for writing for the Vegas Golden Knights on Vegas Hockey Now. Shang helped me out a ton, and then all of a sudden, I got connected with the hockey news, and here I am calling the hometown team. Right. Now, you mentioned Randy and Drew. Obviously, your goal, you've mentioned a few times, out to get to the end. I mean, that's everybody's goal, get to the top level. Have they taken you under their wing? What have they told you advice? What have you learned from them?
yeah, totally. They've been great. I mean, I couldn't ask for better mentors. Me and Dan are really close. We talk on a pretty frequent basis, but we also work kind of in lockstep to a degree on certain things. With Sharks Audio Network, I do some stuff for them, and but he's just been great. I mean, any questions I have, he's given me tons of advice. I try to pick his brain constantly. I'll ask him just random questions all the time.
He knows so much.
It's incredible. It's incredible. I mean, talk about two of the biggest legends really in the sports history from a broadcasting standpoint. We're lucky enough to have them in San Jose. So yeah, they have been absolutely great. Randy's the same. I wouldn't say I talk to Randy as much, but we do connect pretty much every summer. I try to send him some of my work, and he'll give me advice. He's been just incredible as well. So just really friendly, genuinely good people. They don't need to go out of their way to help me, and they have done that time and time again. So I never take that for granted. And like yourself, you're a local kid. You grew up listening to these guys, idolizing these guys. I'm the same, and I still nerd out talking to them, and I consider them friends now. So, again, if I had a question, they're more than willing to help. Always responsive, always helpful, always just trying to be a resource. So yeah, they've been absolutely great.
Is there a biggest piece of advice that either one has given you that stuck with you to this day since you
That's
joined?
a great question. A singular piece of advice.
Or it could be a couple. If there's a
Yeah.
few things that stick out, obviously, but usually there's one or two that kind of stick out. It's like,
That's a good point. I almost with those guys, I try to be a fly on the wall, and I try to absorb some of their knowledge, like through osmosis, essentially. Just
right.
being around them, seeing what they're doing, watching their tendencies, seeing how they prep. You probably do the exact same thing, but I really feel like at times, and I can nerd out on the broadcast and stuff, but I feel like an athlete where you're watching tape and you're prepping and you're trying to improve different areas of your game. I do that with broadcasting constantly. There's different things I want to work on, whether it's how I want to conduct a pregame show, or my inflection, or my tone, or my pacing, or how I do goal calls, like all these different things that kind of come up in your mind. And the off season is great for that because you really get to reflect and really focus on certain areas. When the season's going on, there's not much for anything but
Yeah.
the games itself. So, yeah, I don't know if there's one specific thing or just something that really sticks out, but they've been so good to me. I've asked them so many questions, and I could continue to ask them questions. They'd be happy to help. So, um, I don't know if I can answer your question
That's fine.
specifically, but again, there's a lot, right?
Yeah.
If I can take anything from those guys, if I could have a fraction of the career that they've had, then I think I hit a home run. So that's
Yeah.
how I look at it. And those guys again have just been incredible to me.
Yeah. See, I'm calling SJSU hockey games. My old team that I played for the club hockey team, and I go back and I'm like, did I say that correctly? Is my pace and things like that. Almost done here. My meeting. I don't have the pro version, but it wasn't going to take an hour long. But one thing I wanted to mention is I feel like your signature is he scores very emphatically. He scored. Where did that come from? Did that just appear and now you've run with it? I want to know where that iconic
Yeah,
he scores comes
that's a
from.
great question. It's funny. I was talking about just different things you try to work on, and again, and Dan gave me this advice. Actually, this is funny that you did mention that, but Dan did give me advice when I first went through the interview process, and he said, "I'm not a finished product. I'm still trying to get better. There's still different areas that I'm working on." And to hear that from someone who's been around as long as he has, he's going to be a Hall of Famer. Already is a Hall of
Oh,
Famer, the
yeah.
Bay Area Radio Hall of Fame. To hear that from somebody like that, somebody like himself, it really gives you perspective that you're like a living organism as a broadcaster. You're
Yeah.
always trying to improve, always trying to get better. And I think sometimes time and just reps solve a lot of issues in your broadcast. But noticing things that you want to work on, listening back to your games. But to talk about the goal, it's been a work in progress. My goal call. Sometimes I like it, and sometimes I hate it.
No,
So
yeah, 100%.
during COVID, I worked with a woman I found locally here in Santa Cruz, who was a voice coach, but she did predominantly she worked with singers. So there wasn't a really huge background with broadcasting, but we just had conversations through COVID via Zoom, just about inflection and various things like that. And I want to say a lot of the stuff that we talked about and I worked on, I don't know if I really incorporated as much as I would have thought. Um, I really feel like my goal call is it's rounding into shape more than it was before. I feel more confident about it. Um, but again, sometimes you listen to it and you're like, well, that sounded good. Sometimes you listen to it and you hate it. So I
Yeah.
mean,
Yeah.
that's the life of a broadcaster. We're going to critique ourselves until we're blue in the face. But yeah, I don't know. I liked where it's at. I like where it's at. But who knows? Maybe I'll listen back and think it sucked. So again, it's constantly critique. Randy actually told me one time too. It's funny as you asked the question, I didn't have an answer for you, but things are coming up. He said, listen back to yourself, but don't listen back so much that you're just beating yourself up.
Hmm.
And I thought that was good advice too, right? We always want to get better and listen back, but how far do you want to take it? Because you
Right.
can listen to something one day. I'll listen to myself immediately after the game when I'm driving home, um, and I won't like the way it sounds, or I will like the way it sounds, and then I'll go back a couple of days later, and it almost is completely different
Hmm.
than how I feel about it. So I don't know what that means. I just think we've all got to try to improve, right? In any area, if you're an athlete, you're trying to get better, and as a broadcast, you are as well. So I think listening back, critiquing yourself, but not beating yourself up, all that stuff kind of plays a role as you get better and you do it for a longer period of time, and just hope that helps you get better. Putting that extra little work in.
Perfect. Thank you so much, man. I really appreciate you taking out the time. I don't have too much more. It's just a little get to know you, a little pop up that I'll toss on the site. Little tendencies, let the picture, get a little coverage on Nick Nollenberger, who's the path is there for you, and I'm excited. It's I've been where I worked for the Sharks. I did the ice team. I did shoveling for a while, so I've been to all the games, even through COVID and things like that. Now I'm up in the press box, so it's been cool watching you move up the ranks and improve. It's been fun. Anytime you want to hop on the ice, let me know. I'll get you out there. I run a team. And then anytime you need help in the booth, you have my phone number.
Appreciate that. Well, thank you, Max, for the time. Congratulations on your new
Thank you,
venture as
man.
well. I'm excited to see, all you guys. I see a lot of you guys coming from San Jose State, and you're doing a
Yeah.
great job, and you're getting good jobs too. And that's just kind of a testament to the program and to you guys and your work ethic. But definitely, I got to get on the ice again. I had a few different offers lately, and I'm like, I'm starting to itch to play, but I've got to find my gear. That's like first and foremost. It's
That's
at my
key.
aunt's somewhere in her it's in her garage or something. I don't know. I've got to find it. There's probably spiders all over it, but you got to dust it off and get back on the ice. It's hard
But
to beat the cardio workout of getting on the ice and playing.
yeah,
So it's
you
been too
played
long.
AAA, yeah?
I did, but it's been a long time, and I played some adult league, and I
Yeah.
was playing. It's funny when I got this job, I was playing a couple times a week, and then I got this job, and now I don't play at all. I
Hmm.
don't know why that is. I think commuting 45 minutes each way and basically
Hmm.
living at the rink for work, it's hard to stick around any longer than I already am.
100%.
I think that's probably the biggest thing. I've got a dog, I've got a wife, so it's like, hey, honey, I'm gonna stick around and play hockey.
Be
Is
gone all day, even longer.
yes, exactly. So I think that plays a factor, but I definitely have to get back on. It's kind of like golf. When you hit
Uh,
the off season, it affords a little bit more time. Maybe you play a little bit more. So I
I'm
will
about
take
to
you
go
on
do.
that.
Yeah, no, I play it. We have a free team. It's all employee Shark, so it's in Division 3. I can always talk to some of the guys who make it. It's an employee team. Bill Palter, he makes the time to score system. The way
Oh,
you see
beautiful.
scoring. Yeah, it's his team. It's all employees. It's free. It's Division 3. It's got some good competitives. I'm
Cool. I'd
sure I
love
could
to
get you
play.
on the roster if you ever wanted to play. They'd be like, the boys would be like, huh? Nick, I was like, yeah, dude, he played AAA for Junior Sharks. He'd be like, no way. And I was like, yeah, he's probably pretty sick. All right,
Yeah, it's
Nick.
been a while. I wouldn't hold my breath on my ability, but just try not to pull hamstring or something. But
That's the key. Hamstring. I got the bad knees. It's all good though. Nick, thank you so much, man. I really appreciate it.